of the Senate meeting to order. I will ask Chairman Watson to give a word of thanks.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, thank you for continuing to look over us in our travels, and let us remember your will on this beautiful day, and continue to guide us with discernment and passing quality education, quality legislation. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. Representative Jones, House Bill 389. I sorry to interrupt that private conversation. It must have been very enlightening. You got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, this feels like deja vu from 5 p.m. last night, given the, I'll just say the representation. Mr. Chairman of the committee, I'm working from the substitute of HB 389 LC 365302S. Mr. Chairman, I've never presented in front of your committee before, sir. Would you like for me to do I'll call it a summary of the bill, or how would you like me to proceed, sir?
I want to hear a summary, and then I know there's been some conversations, especially on the, I guess, the section, which section? No. I guess it's just the areas where there's been some conversation, and so if you can just address those for our members.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, ultimately HB 389 can be put together in one word. That's classification, effectively W-2 versus 1099. The impetus for this bill came from a series of different, what I like to call, trades who approached us. And I mean, when I say us, certain members of the House. These trades are anywhere from your HVAC, your plumbers, your welders, etc., saying that we are at a competitive disadvantage because we have some of us are, quote, doing it correctly and classifying correctly as W-2, and others are classifying as 1099, even though they meet the standards of what we typically had considered the classification for a W-2 employee. So if you look at Section 1, lines effectively 22 through 42, that comes in and says you're presumed to be a W-2 employee unless, and you go through and there is a series of different tests that are done. I would like to stress, we'll get to a part of the bill where it speaks to the commissioner looking at this in the totality. So it isn't as if you just hit one prong versus two, it needs to be looked at in the totality, and I'll get that in a moment. Further on page 3, starting on line 47, all the way through line 64. This statute, if you were to go into it, you will see, I believe printed, it probably is about 14 or 15 pages. It has been, I'll say, looked into several decades, and in 47 through 64 represents another carve out to this statute. So essentially, the music industry came to us, explained to us, I'm going to call it the ecosystem that they work under, and forgive me, I'm not an expert in that. I'm kind of the 1970s Eagles, Elton John type guy, Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin, going back to the 60s. And what I'm told is, even today with the computers, there's a series of different, I'll say, professionals, from sound engineers to producers, etc., that are involved in this, and they are typically thought of as a 1099. Lines 65 through lines 88, I call this the gig economy carve out. So essentially, we defined rideshare network and network company, and effectively gave a series of different requirements that as long as they do not prescribe dates, time, minimum hours, as long as they do not terminate a contract, and they must have a contract with the individual, etc., then they too can remain as 1099s. I mentioned to you that the totality language would be coming up, and that's in 89 through 94. Many, many moons ago, line 95 was added. The workers' comp folks were concerned that this would somehow be construed around workers' comp. We wanted to be express in the statute, so you'll see on 95, this is not. Finally, section 2, starting on lines 99, effectively goes into the authority of the department and the commissioner. If you look at the fines, you will see that over the course of the bill-making process, we have created a stair step, and that stair step, you'll see, starts at less than 100 or more than 100, and the commissioner may take into account factors that could actually waive that. And the best example I can give you is my wife is a two-time entrepreneur. She's really good at making crafts, but I love her to death, but she's constantly making, I'll say, mistakes in terms of making sure that this form is done and making sure the Secretary of State has this and that. So we think we wanted to give the commissioner that level of, I'll say, flexibility. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, that is, I'll say, the overall bill.
Okay, thank you. Chairman Watson, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In Judiciary yesterday, we did House Bill 1377. Are you familiar with that, or?
Yes.
So I remember some of the same topics being discussed relating to that. Can you help me understand that?
Sure. That's Chairman Brechette's bill. And Chairman Brechette's bill has a private right of action in it that this bill does not have a private right of action. That is, that is the primary difference, Dr. Watson.
Gotcha. So your bill is better.
In my opinion, we don't need to go into a private right of action in statute, but I feel confident in 389.
Okay, I got you.
All right. Senator Merritt, did you have your button pushed, or was that Senator Harbin? Harbin, okay. You recognize?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. A couple of questions. Why did, on the two classes, the rideshare and music profession, why are just those two recognized specifically from that standpoint? There's no other groups that are, I guess, excluded as I'm reading this from here. Just how did you arrive at that? Just curious.
Sure. So Senator Harbin, this is actually adding to a list of carve-outs that, my apologies, I should have brought the statute with me. I believe this would make number 19 and number 20 in terms of carve-out. We have anything from maritime law that they are excluded. Common carriers, for instance, the truckers that go in and out of the port are excluded. I'm sorry that I don't know the exhaustive list, sir,
Gotcha.
but these are just two additional to what is already, I'll say, a very long list of carve-outs, sir.
Okay. Also, just in the, and this is in the notes, it says services for wage. So I am to assume, and this is number 7 on the summary, it basically says is that they perform the performance of services of wage. So I am assuming that if they do not receive a wage for it now, whether hourly or salary, that's so they're charging and they're providing materials. They're not included in this if they're an independent contractor. It's just the wage part of it that's here.
If you don't mind, Senator Harbin, I don't have that summary in front of me. Would you mind referring to the line number so that
Let's see, I'll have to find it there, but I'm going to go to another question.
Okay,
and I'll come
thank you.
back. Question, in the rideshare, and as I was going through, the food industry is there. Does it also include delivery of food as well as passengers? If they're doing let's see, there's a piece here. If they're performing, for instance, like Uber Eats, does this include the Uber Eats as well as Uber by itself?
Yes, sir. Senator Harbin, if I could refer you to line 66,
Okay.
it'll say that the network company has a written contract with the individual. And then if I could then refer you to line 86, where it speaks to the network company means a rideshare network or a business entity that maintains an online-enabled application or platform used to facilitate delivery services. We don't limit to delivery services. So Shipped, for instance, that I don't believe they do food. I believe they just do product shipping. They fall within that carve-out.
Okay, that was just a question whether food was involved there. And the last question, you have commissioner, which commissioner? Labor commissioner, insurance commissioner? You choose the commissioner you want.
Inside the existing statute, it's the labor commissioner.
Okay.
I apologize.
I don't have all that.
I don't mean to. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. I think we have had someone sign up to testify. We'll do that now, and then we'll see what the will of the committee. Mr. Holm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I'm Brett Hume, Southeastern Carpenters Regional Counsel. Appreciate you allowing me the time to elaborate on the need for this legislation. And I appreciate Chairman Jones continuing this process that's been several years in the making. You might ask, why are we even considering this? Isn't it under the federal jurisdiction? Well, actually, no. The federal DOL does have criteria that separates and clearly identifies independent contractor status versus employee status. However, that's only applicable and enforceable on federal projects. So they've left it up to each state to determine, similar to workman's compensation, education requirements. Currently, Georgia has nothing in statute to address this. So being number one in 8 years running to do business, businesses have to research case law. Section 1 is based in the Georgia Court of Appeals 2012 decision on the criteria that separates W-2 versus employee status. So it's already law, it's just not statute. What you see in Section 1 is the criteria from the Georgia Court of Appeals, and I don't have the recent substitute in front of me, but you'll also, in our attempts to try to get the labor commissioner to enforcement, the standard response was they didn't have the resources. So Section 2 addresses a revenue stream for the Department of Labor to basically enforce the statute for the bad apples. Is this a problem? We have received Georgia Department of Labor audits, 2016 through 2019 consecutive, based on their figures. On average, over 276,000 Georgia workers are misclassified currently. And further on down, the additional uncollected tax or unreported wages and misclassified lost tax revenue appears to be in the neighborhood in excess of $275 million. Committee members, Mr. Chairman, this is a good bill for businesses that play by the rules. The only folks that are going to be opposed to this are the ones not playing by the rules. It does not differentiate W-2 or independent contractor. According to the DOL, you're either or. And it doesn't choose which. It just says you can't be both on the same project. Mr. Chairman, if there's no questions, I appreciate your time.
Let me see if there's some questions. Let's see, Chairman Kirkpatrick.
You confused me because I thought I heard Representative Jones say that we already had a whole bunch of people listed in our current law. Didn't you say 19 different things already listed, and then didn't you just say it's not in our statute?
They are carved out from being as independent contractors solely. It doesn't differentiate the criteria as to what separates. They include insurance license, realtors, students, things like that. Certain demographics that are independent contractors, but it gives no criteria as to what that is.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I am a little slow on the uptake. I should ask the representatives.
We'll bring him back to close, so just let's limit them to the gentleman here testifying. It's yours for him. Yeah, go ahead, Chairman Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Hume. Appreciate you being here from Savannah, like me too. So, do you have a preference of was House Bill 1377 versus this one?
This one.
You prefer this one?
Most definitely, because it gives the DOL what they need for all workers that are not currently carved out.
All right.
All industries.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for
Thank you, Mr.
being
Chairman.
here, and just for the record, nobody else has signed up, so you're concerned about people being against it. If they're against it, they're not showing up. So, all right, you want to close right quick and maybe answer Chair Lady Kirkpatrick's burning question.
Sure, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, instead of me going into a closing speech, I'd like to just address the question, please.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe I missed this, but I'm not sure what changed in the sub. compared to the original bill. And also, I am not clear on the worker compensation issue and why that was taken out.
Okay, so I'll take the second one first because I think that's just straightforward. Workers' comp is in a totally separate title. However, the workers' comp, it's not called the workers' comp board, my apologies. Can anyone help me? State Board of Workers' Comp, thank you. State Board of Workers' Comp, they were concerned that there was going to be, I'll say at the judiciary branch, a conflation between this bill and workers' comp and its determination of what's covered, what's not covered, its payment, et cetera. So we wanted to be ultra clear in terms of our intent to the judiciary. This does not touch that title. It shouldn't touch that title, and workers' comp sits, I'll say, on an island to itself. Okay. And then the first question?
It was, what was different about the sub? Did you
Oh,
already?
yeah, the sub, the primary difference, Chairman Kirkpatrick, is the music industry carve out. That was the primary difference that you're seeing here, and that's lines 47 through 64. Yeah. Now, you are referring to the latest sub, because this bill has been subbed so much, it should be a school district.
I'm referring to the one we have in front.
Okay, thank you.
You're done or not done? Okay, well, leave it alone. I'll take care of you. All right, I'm ready for the will of the committee. I've got, well, I'm going to let, since he came here today, Chairman Watson, are you okay with him making that motion? You second it?
Absolutely.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand and keep them up until Kai nods her head. All right, we got you. Thank you. Good luck in
Thank you,
rules.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
Oh, who's carrying this for you?
It's a similar trend, Brian Strickland.
Ah,
Yeah.
showing him a lot of love. You never know. Representative Gaines, you're here, and you want to present House Bill 1045.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1045 is a pretty simple measure that is essentially some date changes. The first part of it relates to the Department of Labor and the employer contribution rate, which it maintains that rate at 2.64% and the administrative assessment at 0.06. These rates have been at that level since 2017. If we were not to pass this bill, the employer contribution rate would increase to 2.7%. The administrative assessment would increase to 0.08%. This legislation extends these rates through 2026. We've implemented these extensions every few years since 1987. And in 2016, the extension passed unanimously through both chambers. The second part of this legislation, which did have some discussion in the House, and if you look at the vote count in the House, we had some no votes on the House floor, and I'll get to that, but it really addressed the second part. But I think we found language that everybody is now on board with. This extends the subsequent entry trust fund for 2 years from 2023 to 2025. The subsequent entry trust fund.
Let me interrupt just a second to make sure everybody knows where we're talking about. This is in part he's talking about in section 7 and begins towards the bottom with the date changes.
Correct. Yep, so section 7 is where we are talking about the subsequent injury trust fund. And I'll also mention again some of the changes here momentarily, but this extends it for 2 years. This was, the subsequent injury trust fund was started in 1977 to encourage employers to hire and retain qualified employees with disabilities. Subsequent injuries were picked up by the fund when they occurred. Insurance companies and self-insurers have paid assessments yearly to the fund until 2019, when it was decided there were enough funds accumulated to pay for all future benefits. The fund quit accepting cases in 2006, so this is not taxpayer funds. The funding is already there previously. There were thousands of cases open, currently down to 645. So again, the program is self-funded, does not cost the state or taxpayers. And it will allow, by passing this legislation, allow the Subsequent Injury Trust Fund to continue to lower its caseload and help more workers close their cases. The Subsequent Injury Trust Fund is going to be transferred to the Department of Insurance, and I believe that the department is certainly okay with us extending it 2 more years before it is transferred. There was an extension in 2015 that passed unanimously. But there was some concern in the House, and as we've gone through this process, that these cases weren't being closed quick enough, and whatever it may be. We do have folks from both Department of Labor and Subsequent Injury Trust Fund here too. So we worked with the various interested parties to come up with some language to address those concerns. And so in Section 6, we added an additional board member for the Board of Trustees for the Subsequent Injury Trust Fund, and it would be a trial attorney specializing in the representation of injured workers. That would be an appointment by the governor. And then we've also added language at the very end of the bill, starting on line 134, that requires some reporting of the Subsequent Injury Trust Fund to the General Assembly, including the total number of cases, including the total number of remaining claims, the total number of claims which have been closed through settlement for the 12-month period immediately preceding the January 1 reporting date, and guidance from the Board of Trustees of the Subsequent Injury Trust Fund regarding the number of claims it expects to close through settlement during the next 12-month period. And again, we've talked to the various interested parties, including House members who had some opposition, and believe that all opposition is satisfied with this substitute that you have before you. And again, we do have folks from both Department of Labor, Subsequent Injury Trust Fund that may be able to better answer questions if there are any.
Chairman Harbin, do you have a question? Your light's blinking, do you?
In the subsequent trust fund, who holds that money currently, and how much money is there currently? Since you've said that that's enough, how much
Sure.
is enough is a question.
We hold the money, and right now we have 319 million. State Treasury holds it.
Okay. And that, I'm assuming there's an actuarial study of what goes on from that standpoint.
We have one done about every 3 years, in which you have one done.
Okay. Okey doke. Thank you, sir.
Would you, Representative Gaines, would you just repeat what he said, mainly because the people can't
What he
hear
said,
on
sure.
the streaming, so
$319 million, and do believe that they have the actuarial studies every 3 years. You said one's upcoming, is that right?
Yeah, we're fixing the plan.
all right.
Planning through one
Thank
now.
you. Chairman Walker.
Representative Gaines, I'm kind of getting late to the party on this, but so we're extending the 2.64% fee to all, basically, the way I see it, it's a tax on Georgia businesses that carry workers' comp till 2026, or?
If we did not pass it, the rate would actually go up to 2.7%. So if as you're looking through the language, what we're extending is not charging the 2.7% and keeping the rate at 2.64. Same with the administrative assessment. If we did not pass this, it would increase to 0.08. We're leaving it at 0.06.
And that's a percentage of the workers' comp premium that a business pays, or?
Let me interrupt. If you're gonna have questions for other subject matter, we just need, again, because this is streaming, we need to get you to the microphone.
Yeah.
So if there's gonna be some give and take here, we just need to add a seat. I think there's a chair over there, and you can answer the questions, but you need to tell us who you are and why you think you know the answer.
Fair question.
I know who he is. He does know, I believe. But
Thank you,
Mike.
Mr. Chairman. Chairman Walker, thank you. I appreciate your question. Actually, what's happening is you're talking about the administrative assessment, which is on the DOL portion of the bill. And so that assessment's been done since, I think it was 1987. Joe Tanner, which you guys all know Joe, he was labor commissioner. And what occurred, just real quickly, is what occurred was they were having a shortness of funds over there, and they couldn't hire employees to take care of the unemployed. Georgians. So he put in this administrative assessment back then, and we renewed that. I came in here at 96 in the House, and we've been renewing it every 4 years. It's pretty much a kind of a standard thing. We renew it. The only thing that would change, that has changed, is the rate. But right now in that bill, we keep the rate the same. So we're not doing any changes there. It's just pushing it out 4 more years to get that administrative assessment in. Those funds are used to run the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund, the administration of it. So USDOL funds unemployment to the Department of Labor. When times are good, they don't give us any money. When times are bad, they start feeding money to us. And this is to take care of that shortfall, to make sure we have money to take care of employees and have them on the job doing the work. Does that help?
So that's the .08 or the,
Yes, those are the rates. Yeah,
but the 2.64, what is that?
that is the percentage they take per employee. That's the amount that they
So
are charging.
it's got nothing to do with the subsequent injury
No,
trust.
sir. Yeah,
correct?
there's two bills.
It's fully funded,
Yes, sir.
and there's no additional costs going forward. It just needs to be extended so that the claims can be closed.
Yes, sir. Yeah, what we did when we were over at the SITF, I was the administrator. We were working hard to shut it off early so businesses would continue had to pay into this fund, and we cut it off 4 years early, which saved us $400 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank
Sorry
you.
for my confusion.
No problem. Chairman Kirkpatrick, go ahead.
Don't come back. So, no more claims are going into the subsequent injury trust fund? Is
No,
that
ma'am.
accurate?
No, ma'am. It was shut off. We shut up off the closure in '04 we had a '09 date, and then we took the majority in '05. We sped up the closure to '06 and had to shut it down real quickly, in 1 year period. So no more claims are coming in since '06.
Okay, so claims are still there from '06, and this is 2022.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We have some cases that the claimants are still receiving their benefits from 1984.
Okay, and so apparently we haven't been getting any numbers on how many claims have been settled over the last however many years, or how many are left in the system.
Okay.
So this bill is supposed to fix that, right? 'Cause
That's
there's
right.
It
gonna be
does
some
require
reporting.
some reporting. So at the very end of the bill, it adds the reporting requirements to the House and Senate for number of claims outstanding, how many they expect to close, and those sort of things. They have gone from, I think it was something like 10,000 to 645, so there has been significant progress. But some of the claims, as I understand it, y'all could talk to it better, but I mean, they're unlikely to close. No matter what, the program is transferring to the Department of Insurance. So this would allow for the next, until 2025 to have more cases closed. But either way, the program is going to continue and be under the Department of Insurance.
Just a follow-up, Mr. Chair,
One
if you don't
more
mind. One
quick
more?
follow-up.
Okay. So can you just go back to, you said that the fund is moving to Department of, or the Office of
And that was a
Commissioner of
previous, that's
Insurance.
not under this legislation. This is just delaying the transfer.
So they've already moved?
No, it was currently scheduled to move in 2023. This legislation moves it back to 2025. But that transfer to the Department of Insurance is not something captured in this. That was already going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm ready to hear the will of this committee on House Bill 1045. Got a motion to pass. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, looks unanimous. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And who's carrying this bill in the Senate?
Any volunteers? Senator Harbin.
All right, that'll be fine. Senator Harbin has volunteered
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
before he was voluntold, so that's good. Yeah. All right, that concludes our business for today, unless there's any further comments. I want to thank this committee for its hard work. We've gotten a lot of bills out in a short period of time, and I appreciate your efficiency, and y'all have a good day and rest of the session.